Welcome back, guys. Unfortunately, I had a bit of problems with my microphone in this recording. I recorded the entire of Fredericksburg and then went to check the recording afterwards, and there was no microphone, no voiceover, I'm afraid. So I'm gonna have to go back, or I am going back and doing a voiceover for it. I've never done this before, so it'll be interesting to see how it works. So basically what I'm explaining here at the moment is that if you put units in the reserves, then they come in on the left and the right flank. They actually come in sooner than if you put them in the center and try and run them over to the left and right flank. So putting them in the reserves is better than putting them in the center if you're intending on running them over to the left or right. So in this battle, you basically only need to hold 2 of the 3 objectives. So we're going to be holding the left and the right and abandoning the center. So all we're doing is putting some cavalry in the center that we're going to run out and try and catch some cannons with. Now in the reserve section it works a little bit strange. In the left hand slot you get 10 units come in, so although it says 50 brigades, it's actually only 10 brigades per slot. In fact, I think the right hand slot is only 9 brigades, so or the other way round, 9 and then 10. So what we're going to be doing is putting 9 brigades in the left hand slot and 10 brigades in the right hand slot. There's no point in filling out anymore. They'll be coming in a lot quicker to reinforce the left and the right, which are the 2 objectives that we're going to try and hold. And then the cavalry that we deploy in the center, they're just going to run around doing what cavalry do, looking for someone to pick on, an isolated unit, preferably some cannons. So yeah, I'm just explaining which ones are going to where. So frustrating. This is about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45-minute video that I did voiceover for, and it didn't record. Oh, disgusting. Okay, so we want to try and kill the troops as they're trying to cross the bridge. So we're just going to have 1 skirmisher at the top helping out with our infantry unit, and then we're going to bring the other 2 skirmishers down below to guard the bridge at the bottom. For whatever reason, the cannon brigade decided to run all the way over to the bridge, which is very odd. So we're going to see if we get an opportunity to do some damage to him. He is able to get canister fire from that range though, so he is doing a little bit of damage to me. So it's unlikely that you're able to finish a cannon unit off before he retreats, so we're just going to try and do as much damage as we can before he manages to get out of range. We're very close to finishing him off, but not quite. So we're going to have to chase him down later on. Now, this particular phase of the battle is irrelevant in terms of the objectives. You can relinquish the objective, lose the objective, and it doesn't make any difference to the second day or the second phase. So if you don't want to fight this battle or this phase of the battle, you don't have to. But you can do some heavy damage to the enemy, and it's worth it as long as you play it correctly. So we tried to get our skirmishers across because I thought that other infantry unit was going to the north bridge, but we saw him coming back down towards us, so we just retreated back across. We've got full cover, he's got negative cover on the bridge, so there's no point in fighting him in the open. So I was just sending my skirmishers out there just to try and goad an attack across the bridge, trying to get them to charge across to me, but it didn't work, unfortunately. This infantry unit's coming back again. Every time I think he's going north, he decides to turn around and come try again across this bottom bridge. For some reason this cannon unit has decided to come back onto the bridge again. Probably because he can't see me, but it's still very strange. Trying to finish him off, but the infantry come in and protect him. So there's a chance that they can just break through and get across the bridge. If that happens, then you may as well just end the battle early. There's no point in playing the battle if you can't keep them across the other side of the bridge. So unfortunately his cannon unit retreated again, so we're not going to be able to catch him. But it looks like that infantry unit is now deciding that he is going to go across the north bridge. So we're going to try and sneak our skirmishers across, see if we can ambush the cannon. And it looks like he's turning back around again. So yeah, every time I think, okay, he's going north, he keeps coming back. And now he's been joined by another infantry division, so they're really stopping us from getting to their cannons. So, because the cannon is trying to cross the bridge again, we're going to run across, see if we can deal with him. And he's so close. So close. We might just be able to get a volley before he runs, and we did. So we're still inflicting some pretty hefty casualties on them, and we haven't really taken any in return. These skirmishers are not ours, so we can easily lose them and it won't affect our manpower at all. Or at least I don't think it affects your total manpower. I could be wrong on that though. But this kill-death ratio is highly in our favour. So we're just going to try and prolong the engagement as long as we can. So I was a bit unsure if when the timer counts down that the battle will end. It had been a long time since I'd played this mission, so I wasn't quite sure about some of the mechanics, so I was guessing a little bit, which is why I ran the skirmishers out to try and get some some late game damage before the timer ran out, because I knew the skirmishers weren't mine. I didn't mind trading losses on the skirmishers for kills on the enemy. Okay, so now that message came up and it didn't end the battle, this is when I realise, okay, I have got a bit longer to deal with and I don't just want to throw my skirmishers away. So the enemy are trying to cross the bridge right now, and unfortunately detaching my skirmishers didn't dissuade him. But luckily he decided to stand and shoot instead of carry on charging, so we managed to get a volley off on him while he was still on the bridge, which made him retreat. So we're just trying to keep that north unit routing so he doesn't route one of our skirmishers, and then with the other two we're just going to try and take down this cannon. Taking down the cannons is quite important, because in Fredericksburg, most of the losses that you get inflicted on you are from enemy cannons. So for every cannon you can destroy, that's a lot of lives you can be saving, basically. Okay, so we've dealt with one of the units now. So I'll put one of the skirmishers on to hold fire, because his morale had been knocked below 50%. So they don't do a volley fire when they're below 50%, which means that they don't move. So to get them to move, you've actually got to put them on hold fire. Trying to route this unit so we can get past him to the cannon again. So it looks looks like we've managed to sneak one of our skirmishers by. Now I was checking down below because I was pretty sure one of their units had snuck past me and had gone down to the south bridge. So I was just checking to see if I could spot anything. Now here, I didn't want to attack the unit on the bridge because he's in a fortification at the moment, and if you shoot him, it'll rout him, which will knock him out of the fortification, and then he might start trying to cross the bridge. And I didn't want another unit trying to cross the bridge, which is why I just tried to skirt around him. So because I didn't know how long this battle was going to go on for, I was just getting a little bit reckless with the skirmishers, just running them in. I just wanted to get as many kills as I could, as fast as I could. So yeah, I was certain at this point that the other infantry unit had crossed over the bridge, so I was just fully expecting to be flanked, but obviously going through the town takes quite a long time to actually traverse, so I knew I had a bit of time. So I just wanted to knock out that infantry division that was crossing the north bridge as fast as I could, so I could then turn my attention to the one that had already crossed the south bridge. So I was a little bit concerned about this infantry unit that I was shooting at with the skirmishers. I was thinking if he routed, he'd probably route across the south bridge into the heavy cover of the houses, and then I wouldn't be able to do much damage to him if he was in the houses. So I just wanted to do as much damage as fast as I could before he actually made it across that south bridge. But for whatever reason, he decided to go in this little corner here instead of crossing the bridge. He's so close to actually crossing, but because he didn't make the move immediately, he's now kind of stuck in this position. So we're just running in for some melee damage, just trying to get as much damage on him as I can before he figures out crossing the bridge was a better idea. So I'm pretty certain that that next volley is going to take out that infantry division on the north bridge. And he's gone. So now I'm going to bring my infantry unit down. First, I get some skirmishers out, because I want to see if I can spot him, just in case he's flanking all the way around to the left. And I was pretty surprised here that enemy unit across the other side of the bridge had the range to actually hit my skirmish unit. I was surprised that he could even see him, let alone actually shoot him. So we've spotted the infantry unit that was flanking now. So we're going to bring ours down to see if we can do some damage to him. He's almost made it into the houses, and that unit up the top, because he's in the fortification, he's not moving anywhere. So we're just trying to flank around his side, trying to get him to expose his side to the infantry division. Unfortunately, I get round his side and he decides he wants to face the infantry division, so the flank hasn't quite worked. We can still get some flanking damage with the skirmisher, but it's irrelevant now. It's the end of the day. We did a heck of a lot of damage, took out 2 cannon units, took out 2 infantry units, and severely damaged 2 more. So this phase of the battle is quite frustrating, that you don't get to choose where all of your infantry are deploying. They are automatically deployed for you, which is quite frustrating, having to reorganize everything. So I'm just trying to decide where to put all my infantry before I decide what I'm going to do with my cannons. I'm just showing that there's marsh in that area, so it's highly unlikely that the enemy's going to try and cross that marsh. So I don't really need any infantry protecting that area. So I try moving my infantry forward in that area. Didn't realise that them trees are just visual and they're not actually providing any cover, which is rather frustrating. So you'll notice I realised that in a short while and retreat them slightly. So I fully expect the enemy to attack all across this tree line. So I'm spreading my forces quite thin, putting quite a lot of infantry on the right flank and in the centre on the right here where the mouse is. And you'll see in the battle that no infantry or no enemy attack anywhere apart from on the far left flank. So I've got basically 2/3 of my force not doing anything for the entire battle, or for this phase anyway. But I don't want to move them because I'm pretty certain that eventually they'll start to filter over to the right, which they never do. So I end up fighting the entire phase of the battle with only 1/3 of my units, and so yeah, that wasn't great. I spread all my cannon out as well across the whole tree line, so half of my cannons are out of range, and if they're not out of range, they're definitely out of effective range. So I'm just making sure that my howitzers are close to the front line and my rifled cannon are a little bit further away. But as you'll see, the rifled cannon, or at least this section of them, are miles away from the combat. This is when I realised that the cover in them trees is not actually cover. So I just retreat my unit a little bit, get him into actual cover. So that unit there, it's in a bit of a precarious position because it hasn't got any decent cover, so I'm just retreating him a little bit further back from the front line. So the enemy cannon decide to come all the way up to my front line because they can't actually see me. They keep walking forward until they can see me. So he's about to eat a volley of infantry fire. So I set all my rifle cannon to try and deal with the enemy cannon, but unfortunately he manages to retreat out of sight. So he manages to escape before I can kill him. So at this point it does look like they're starting to filter over to the right. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's definitely a good job that I kept all these units in this tree line here. But you'll notice later on in the battle, once each division retreats, it then attacks on the left hand side. So I'm just sending some skirmishers out here to see if I can spot the cannon that's shooting me. So I've managed to spot the cannon now, so I'm just holding the skirmishers in place because I don't want them to get spotted until I've dealt with that cannon. So I'm trying to send some skirmishers out on the left hand side now to see if I can spot the cannon that retreated earlier on. It's a bit risky for them skirmishers on the left hand flank because the enemy have got quite a few cavalry divisions, and if they decide to charge towards my skirmisher, he'll be dead. So just trying to make sure I stay out of vision. I think as soon as they see me, they'll definitely charge in that direction. So things are looking pretty decent so far. Most of the engagements are me in heavy cover and the enemy in either open cover or a little bit of tree line cover. But I'm starting to get flanked here, so I'm running this division out as fast as I can. See if I can get a volley off on him before he gets any closer. It takes my division quite a while before he shoots, unfortunately. So he does manage to get in quite a bit of heavy cover before I actually get a volley off. Which means that he doesn't retreat straight away. But we've managed to force him off now. So it looks like now there's quite a lot of infantry coming in, so I'm going to run this skirmisher back to his parent army. This skirmisher on the left flank has managed to spot some cannons, so I'm going to try and get some counter battery fire on him, but you'll notice he's actually a little bit too far away, and my rifled cannon end up getting far too close to the front line, and I think I might even lose a cannon before I realise that it's just too far for them to try and shoot. So as you can see, they're stacking up really heavily on the left hand side and not really filtering over to the right anymore. So our divisions or brigades are in the left hand flank. We're starting to take some serious punishment. So I kept an infantry brigade in reserve here just to fill in any gaps, so I'm just moving him into position now to replace the unit that's really beat up. So as you can see, my rifled cannon got really close to the front line. So I set one of them, the one on the right, to shoot canister fire, but I left the other three trying to aim at the enemy cannon. So as you can see, the enemy cannon's at 372 men, and you'll notice that that number doesn't reduce. So I'm just clicking on the cannons now, wondering what's going on, wondering if I'm in range or not. And I noticed that this division, this cannon division, is still moving forward, so he's clearly not in range. He's still trying to get into range. But for some reason the other two cannons aren't moving forward, but the enemy cannon's health isn't going down. So I'm wondering what on earth is going on. Why aren't they shooting? So in a short while I'll realise that I've got the firing bug on the two 10-pounder turrets, which means that they can't actually fire for the rest of the battle. I think they do fire, but it's about a tenth of the rate, maybe even slower than that. So I notice now that this ordnance is still trying to move forward. So I just start to retreat him because he's sitting right on the front line taking needless casualties. So things are looking real tense now because there's so many enemies stacking up on one side. I'm starting to get very nervous at this point, thinking the whole line's just going to crumble. So I start to bring infantry units across to help out. Still convinced at this point that I'm going to get attacked on the right hand flank, but for whatever reason the enemy just don't attack. This is when I notice what on earth is going on. Why is the enemy cannon still at 372? That's when I realise that I've got the cannon bug. Yeah, things right now are looking terrible. I'm thinking, oh shit, it's all falling apart. Everything was looking pretty damn smooth up until this point, but now there's just far too many infantry divisions stacking up. This is when I notice, I'm pointing it out now, they're at 0 condition even though they've barely done anything. And that's what causes the bug, basically. The condition just keeps going down. I don't know the exact reason for it, but once they get to 0 condition, the fire rate drops to about 1/10 of the speed, if not slower. So I'm in a bit of panic mode at the moment, trying to decide what on earth to do. Whether an attack is going to materialise on the right flank, or whether I should start moving men over. Things are looking like they're stabilising to a degree, but it's still very, very touch and go. It's on a knife edge. And my cannon units are far too close to the front line. If one infantry division crumbles, they could easily just break through and decimate my cannons. Start to get a bit pissed off at this point with my cannons sitting there doing absolutely nothing. Still haven't fired a single shot at that enemy cannon division. He's still on 372 men. So I start moving the skirmishers over to shoot the cannon instead. And then I think I need to move men over. I'm desperate at this point. I need to get some infantry over. So I'm just checking, excuse me. So I'm just checking the right flank just to see if anything's happening there. Nothing's happening still. And I've just noticed that this division here is bloody turning his flank right towards the enemy, even though he's got enemy right in front of him. So that could have been very, very costly. So somehow I've managed to hold on to this front line, and I haven't crumbled which I'm absolutely shocked about, because if all of their infantry just charged in, there'd be absolutely nothing I could do to stop it. Infantry support is finally arriving, so I'll start trying to switch out some of the really beat up units. Get some fresh units up on the front line. Just rotating them out now. So we survived the onslaught. Not quite sure how, but we survived it. It wasn't great having all of my men out of position. The entire right hand flank has done nothing. But I had to keep them there, because if they penetrated the right flank and got into the trees, it would have been a really bad situation. So I'll just notice now that this unit is moving way out of position, because there wasn't enough room in the line. Which is then going to get this unit to turn towards him and expose his flank. So things could quite easily have gone terribly wrong there. So I'm just trying to create a bit more space for this unit to fit in. And we survived. And we're on to Mary's Heights, which is just as difficult, if not more difficult. Now we haven't got a tree line to hide in. We've got some fortifications, some walls to hide behind, but it's nowhere near as safe as a tree line. So I'm just trying to figure out which ones are these, the howitzers, and which ones are the rifled cannon. Obviously I want to get the howitzers up on the front and keep the rifled cannon a little bit further behind. So I'm just sending my sniper to the north, and I'm sending some infantry with him as a bit of protection from any cavalry or any skirmishers that might stumble into my sniper. So I'm just checking the supply and trying to figure out where the best place to put my supply wagon is, because them supply depots pretty much cover the entire front line, but First, I think I'll send my supply out to supply the sniper rifle, but then I think I second guess, that's not right word, but I think to myself it's not worth the risk sending my supply wagon that far out. If it gets captured, that you lose 35 grand basically, 32 and a half years. So it's just not worth the risk of exposing the supply wagon for the cost of 32,000. So I'm trying to decide here whether to bring my 20 pounders a little bit further away from the front line. I don't want to risk getting casualties on them, and so I'm just going to move them back and see if I can get a howitzer there instead. Howitzers, obviously, you want them as close to the front line as you can without actually losing cannons. Now, although them forts for the cannons are pretty good, they seem to attract cannon fire. I don't know whether the enemy cannons specifically target them. I don't think they do. I think they're just targeting the infantry on the front line, but they seem to get collateral fire a lot easier when they're in them fortifications. I don't know why, but that just seems what happens. So I'm just trying to decide where to put my infantry to get them in position to rotate the front line out, basically, because trying to hold the front line on Mary's Heights is incredibly tough. So you need to do a lot of rotating of infantry on this. So I'm just detaching a couple of skirmishers to help out with the sniper, and then I realise I've got some reinforcements coming in. I'll soon realise as well that these reinforcements are rookies, so I really want the rookies on the front line because they're the ones who are going to absorb the most damage, and at the moment I've got 2-star units in the fortifications, so I really don't want 2-star units eating a load of cannon fire. So I'm going to rush the reinforcements over to rotate the 2-star units out of the front line. So things get incredibly hectic in this phase of the battle, and if I'd used the pause button, I would have been able to set my cannons to counter battery fire a lot more efficiently, but I don't particularly like to use it that often. So I'll use it occasionally, the pause button, but I don't like to keep pausing every few minutes just to micromanage everything. It feels a bit cheaty, so and a bit tedious as well. So I do miss the opportunity to actually counter-fire quite a lot of the cannons when things get really hectic, which you'll notice in probably about 5 minutes time. So I noticed that this howitzer that's on the front line is taking an absolute pounding in that fortification, so I'll just try and retreat him to the one slightly behind, hoping that he'll have a little bit better time in that further fortification. But if I'd have kept him where he was, he would have taken 4 or 5 cannon losses. And I don't think it would have been worth doing the extra damage at the cost of all them losses. So now I'm just starting to move my rookies into position to get my vet units off the front line. So as you can see now, the enemy are just doing a full-on mass charge with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 10 infantry divisions have just charged at me. So now I'm like, shit, panic stations. If I'd have paused the game, I'd have been able to do a little bit better damage control. But I find it more entertaining not pausing the game, trying to actually manage everything real time. Unfortunately, this fortification just to the north is terrible. You get flanked there dead easy, so I got my division knocked out of that position almost immediately. The first shot that he took was an automatic flank. So, as you can see, my front line's crumbling, and I'm straight away thinking, oh god, it's over, they've overrun me. But luckily, I managed to get fresh units onto the front line quick enough before they actually managed to fully break through. But it's incredibly touch and go at this moment. I'm having to rotate 2-star units into the front line just to keep the front line going, which is not ideal. So once again, a huge infantry charge is really putting the hurt on me. I've had my 2-star unit knocked out of that fortification. I've had to replace him with another 2-star unit. So not ideal at all. I'm now getting a 1-star unit into position to try and rotate him in. So I've got my sniper here trying to take out one of the cannons. I'm just going to move some skirmishers up to give him some flank protection. So things are still pretty damn precarious at the moment. Just trying to get this division into place as fast as possible before he gets flanked. So at this point I'm thinking if I'd have paused I would have got so much more counter battery fire on the go, but it's against my nature. So I'm just trying to search for the counter battery fire cannons in the real time now, get them targeting some of the enemy cannons. So I've got some cheap, crappy howitzers here, which I'm going to move up to the front line. I don't mind if they take damage. I brought them in specifically to do as much damage as possible and not really caring about the losses that we receive in return. So I'm just going to move this 1-star unit onto the front line. Get my 2-star unit out of that fortification. Once again, I'm trying to find all of my counter battery fire, get them targeting a cannon again. Trying to rotate them around into the center so while targeting cannons they don't run all the way into the front line. Trying to find something for my sniper to do, which I've found a cannon. Don't want to run them skirmishes any closer though, because if the enemy spot them, then they're going to send divisions over there. So I'm starting to think about a flank on the cannons at the moment with some infantry, because the enemy infantry has pretty much been neutered. I've done so much damage to them that even if they did a full-on assault, I think I've got enough of my own infantry in position to be able to hold them back. So I'm starting to think the enemy cannons are the ones that are doing all the damage to me at the moment. So I want to try and get them out of the way as fast as possible. So I start bringing infantry over to go on a flank into the city and try and force out all of the cannons that are hiding back there, because the counter battery fire just won't be killing the enemy cannons fast enough. There's far too many cannon divisions to deal with in a timely fashion. Just trying to sneak them as close as I can to the enemy infantry without actually getting them to turn and target me. I'm trying my best to multitask and get some counter battery fire. Unfortunately, my sniper was locked onto one of the cannons that was retreating, so he tried to run all the way through the enemy cannons to reach him. Luckily I caught it in time and didn't actually lose anything. And I just caught my counter battery cannon trying to get to the front line while trying to get in range of counter battery fire. So I'm just moving him into a more suitable position. And I've just about got my infantry into a decent position. So I'm going to start running them into the back line. I'm telling them to go across the bridge, not because I actually want them to go across the bridge, but just to make sure that they take the widest berth possible away from the enemy infantry on the front line. I don't want the enemy infantry retargeting them if I can help it. So I'm just starting to detach a load of skirmishers now, because I want to be able to basically attack in in the city as well as across the bridge. So I'm going to be sending the skirmishers across the bridge and the infantry into the city. Just trying to do enough damage to each one of these cannon units to try and rout him. So the intention isn't to do damage at the moment, more so to actually get them routing so they're not shooting me. That's why I'm splitting my fire across them all. So for a second I did think I'd dealt with that cannon, which is why I was going to bring the skirmishers over, and then I realised, no, he's still there. But we've done a pretty decent job of dealing with them without getting any counter fire. I don't think I got any of my skirmishers routed during all of that, which is pretty impressive, if I don't say so myself. So we've got all the cannon units dealt with across the other side of the bridge, so it's time to start bringing my units back across now. Just going to see if I can capture a couple of supply wagons first, which proves to be a bit of a challenge. I think I'm saying at the moment, damn, I need a break. This battle's brutal. Yeah, it was intense. It was intense. And now this is when I notice that a load of cavalry turn up. And now my skirmishers in deep trouble. So I think abandon capturing supply wagons and just try to get my skirmishers back to safety. And then with the sniper rifle, I think if the cavalry decide to go in his direction, he's absolutely screwed, and that unit costs a stupid amount of money. I think it costs 75k, more than 75k. I think it's about 82k for that sniper unit, and that's just the guns. Obviously you've got his veterancy to take into account as well, so yeah, I cannot afford to lose that sniper. This is when I realise, oh shit, I've got a load of cavalry that's just turned up. This skirmisher's rolled over from the previous phase, which is why I've got a random skirmisher chasing a cannon. But I noticed that there's 3 infantry divisions there. So I'm trying to decide at the moment what to do with my cavalry. Because I really don't want to charge my cavalry towards 3 infantry divisions, because they just get absolutely slaughtered. They might be able to take one of the infantry divisions out, but they'd all get severely crippled, so I just think I'll skirt around them, see if I can find some easy prey to deal with. I'm going to bring the general over to see if he can find some supply wagons, and with this skirmisher I just try and hide in the corner, see if I can get out of sight of the cavalry that's roaming back around there. So we see the cavalry now coming across the bridge. I was a little bit slow getting my infantry into position. Really, I should have had them there protecting the bridge, and I messed up. Just noticed there's another cannon over here, so I'm just bringing some units across to deal with that cannon, while trying to deal with the 2 cannons that are still left in the city or the town. So them 2 supply wagons that I captured look like they're about to be recaptured by the cavalry, and now I'm on oh shit panic mode for the sniper rifles. So I'm still trying to chase down that supply wagon with the skirmishers. I've been chasing him for about half an hour. And I finally catch him. So we find some prey for the cavalry finally. Just trying to get this skirmisher unit away from the enemy infantry. So I managed to deal with 1 cannon unit really quickly. We're just about to devour an infantry unit, and then we're going to try and take out this other cannon unit. And then I noticed that there's a shitload of infantry appearing at the bottom of the screen. We can only see one of them now, but there is a lot more down there. But the general's captured 2 more supply wagons. I'm just trying to get my skirmishers in a safe position. He can also help protect the supply wagons. So I think that the cannon might be dealt with here, and then I think I'll just double check, just make sure that the cannon is dealt with. And then there he is, right there. So I'm still panicking about the sniper rifles, so running them into some tree line, trying to get them safe, and just as I do that, the cavalry start chasing after me. Almost as if it knows where I am even though I'm hidden. So I don't want the cavalry to flank round the back of my line, because obviously I've got a load of cannon back there, expensive cannon. I managed to corner one of the infantry units on his own, so we've dealt with him pretty quickly. Got a chance of snagging another supply wagon here, and I want to see if I can get them other 2 supply wagons that I lost earlier on. These infantry have done a good job chasing down these cannons. That will have saved us a lot of damage in the long run. And there's 4 juicy supply wagons right there for the taking. I'm having trouble chasing down this supply wagon again. Seems to be a recurring theme. So I just want to get the cavalry into a position where they might be able to find somebody on their own to pick on, and we're sending the general to try and capture some of these supply wagons. I'm just telling all of these skirmishers to go to the parent armies while trying to chase down this pesky little supply wagon. So the general managed to capture 1, but not the rest. So he's going to go back for another run. Sending the skirmishers across to try and help him. Just making sure my flank is secure over here. And we see some cavalry with the snipers, so we're just going to try and pick a few of them off. And that supply wagon managed to evade me again. So spending ages chasing him, and I just noticed there's another cannon there. So we're sending in the cavalry to deal with that cannon, while the skirmisher tries to rout him. There's 1 more supply captured, another supply captured, and another supply captured. So the general's done an absolutely fantastic job of capturing supply. Skirmishers softened up the cannon, and now the cavalry are going to devour him. Still haven't managed to capture this bloody supply wagon. So my recording just glitched a little bit, so I'm just hoping that the the microphone's working again now. Not 100% sure it is, but fingers crossed. And we've still not captured that supply wagon yet, because the general's there protecting all this time, trying to capture the bloody supply wagon. So frustrating. And we finally caught him. Let's hope it was worth it. Okay, so we see an infantry division, or I'll come back to that in a second, it looks like. So I'm still on the supply capturing hunt at the moment. So yeah, we see an infantry division trying to break out here now. So I think I'll take these cavalry, try and catch him while he's on his own. So I'm just waiting for him to get far enough away from that infantry division for me to not eat a flanking shot from him. And we're going to run in, see if we can devour him. Just sending the skirmishers back to protect the supply wagons. And we see 2 more supply wagons, so we quickly snag this one, and then we run down, try to get the other. So it's been an absolute haul with all these supply wagons. Obviously I could advance out here with my infantry, but at the moment the enemy have got no cannons and we've got loads, so it just seems pointless risking my infantry when I'm the only one that's able to cause damage at this range. So I may as well just get free damage on them with no return fire. Just moving my cavalry back into a position where they might be able to catch these retreating infantry divisions. So I realise I've put them too close, because I'll get flanking fire if I move in from that direction, so just moving them back a little bit. We see some cavalry moving in on the left flank, so I'm trying to decide what's the best thing to go for, the infantry in the open or the cavalry on the left flank, and I decide the cavalry is the best. And then we get ambushed by a full stack of infantry. Luckily, because they were charging, they didn't shoot a volley at me. That would have been very painful if they'd have shot a volley there, so I was quite lucky. So I need to move my cavalry away from these flanking infantry, but then I decide I'd rather go in and see if I can finish him off. It's a risky manoeuvre because I have got 2 infantry divisions right behind them. If I can just quickly finish them off and then move away from them flanking infantry divisions. So we're going to have a rough time in these trees with the cavalry, so we're not going to be able to deal with them very quickly. But I want to keep them routed, because if I don't keep them routed, they're just going to turn around and get a nasty volley fire on me. So yeah, it's not a great position to be in, fighting in the trees, but I'd rather that than them recover and shoot a volley at me. Just still letting the cannon do the job up north. No point in exposing my infantry. So I think to myself, most of the enemies are up north now, so I'm just going to move all of my howitzers in that direction so they're at a shorter range, do extra damage. And then we see a huge infantry division right in front of us, so we decide to turn away and try and catch this cavalry. So we see a huge infantry division there, so we try and turn away and catch this cavalry instead. So I'm just checking the victory conditions because I wanted to make sure that I didn't need to hold this telegraph road. I was pretty sure I didn't, but I just wanted to check, and basically Prospect Hill is the only one that's that you have to hold. And then you can choose whether to hold Marie's Heights or Telegraph Road. Obviously we've got Marie's Heights at the moment, so we can just forget about Telegraph Road. It's not important. There's no point in fighting a whole stack of infantry just to take an objective that we don't need. Okay, so the howitzers are moving into position to get closer to all of the enemy in the north, and then I realise in a second I'm being flanked. So I'm just getting the cavalry into a safe position. I feel like they've done the job. Time for them to retire, and then here comes the flank. A nasty flank on a 2-star unit. Never good. So I'm trying to get units into a position where if I do shoot him, it'll be as he's entering the river. But it looks like he's decided he doesn't want to come across after all. So I'm just sending skirmishers out to distract this unit while I flank him with some infantry. And I'm just going to see if I can get out and snag some more supplies before the timer runs out. So it's a bit risky because I've got an infantry brigade right in front of me, but I think it's worth it for the supplies, so I take the risk. And then we try and retreat, and it looks like we managed to get out without absorbing any fire. So we send the general in to see if we can get the others, and we're so close. We've got 1 minute left. Are we gonna get it? We're down to 0 minutes, and we don't. We are spitting distance away from capturing another one, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. Okay, on to the final part of the battle now. We got the cavalry over into a position where they could transition into the other side of the encounter. Just doing a quick save just to make sure nothing corrupt happens. But this is a pretty easy mop up now. This is just a case of chasing down the cannons and then finishing off these infantry that are here. So now I know that they're not really attacking the right hand flank, I'm pretty safe to start bringing them divisions out. I noticed that this Tredegar's very close to losing the cannon, so I'll start trying to retreat him, and then we move in to deal with these cannons. Short work of them 2 cannon divisions, and then we start seeing if we can find any more might be hiding, lurking in the shadows. Just going to quickly run over, see if we can snag this supply wagon. There's one more supply wagon, more cash for the kitty. Have knocked out a cavalry unit, and there's an infantry unit there. Now, I don't realise this, but I've retreated all of my infantry divisions from the centre to the left flank. So that infantry unit at the bottom is charging straight into cannon, and I didn't even realise. I assumed that there'd be infantry there to protect the cannon, so I didn't even look to check and to protect the cannon. Basically, I just thought, there's infantry there, won't be a problem. And unfortunately, I lose at least 2, possibly 3 cannons because I didn't check. I'm going to notice just in a second. Realise that infantry unit is attacking cannons. I look over, he's routed, but it's too late now. He's already done his damage. And I lost 2 cannons, it looks like. So, not the end of the world, it's only 2 cannons, but 2 cannons more than I would have liked. Starting to charge my infantry out, get them ready for an encirclement, hopefully. Cavalry are doing a pretty decent job of dealing with that infantry unit. I'm just moving the cavalry into a position to try and catch anybody who tries to retreat in that direction. Start to get a bit concerned that I'm heading too close to the main infantry line, so I just back the cavalry away, send them on a wider flank away from the main infantry force. Just trying to close the net at the moment, and then I realise, oh shit, what's going on up here? All of my hard work catching them supply wagons almost undone in a second by a single cavalry unit. So I'll leave the skirmishers to try and delay the cavalry while I try to escape with all the supply. And then I realise, oh shit, while I'm concentrating on these bloody supply wagons, I'm running into trouble here. And unfortunately, I forget to issue an order to this Springfield that's running in. And this 2-star Springfield is going to run straight into danger. Cavalry have spotted another victim, but there's an infantry unit very close on the flank, so I'm just trying to stay out of his range. And as you see now, the Springfield is running straight into danger. I still haven't noticed it. While I'm micromanaging everything, and I finally noticed now, and he eats a shot to the side. I was 1 second too late in noticing. So it wasn't much damage, but still more damage than I'd like to take. So I'm still a bit concerned about that flanking infantry there. He only needs to move up very slightly and he'll do some serious damage to the cavalry that is stuck in the river. Managed to get the tiniest little hit off. And I noticed there's another huge cavalry unit, infantry unit coming in for a flank. So unfortunately, all my cavalry are on 0 condition, so they're moving dirt slow. But we find another infantry unit to pick on. Just gonna take him out as fast as possible, and then we see another infantry unit. So we run over, well, say run, we gallop over, but I suppose it's more of a canter at this condition. just trying to get some semblance of a line going on. The cannons, they're too far away to do anything really, but I move them up just in case something happens where I have to retreat a little bit. Just put 2 infantry units just to protect the flank of the cannons. And then, oh dear, I'm getting flanked by some cavalry and I'm stuck in a river and I've got 0 condition. This is a terrible position to be in. My guns are so short range that I have to be basically spitting distance away to actually fire them, while theirs are a lot longer and a lot more powerful. So I'm taking needless casualties stuck in this river. But I eventually managed to catch one of them, and then we're just going to catch the other one now. But I still took a few too many casualties. But the cavalry have been absolutely superb in this battle. So even with the few casualties, I'm more than happy with how they've performed. But now it's time to get the hell out of here, because they've got virtually no condition left. Or literally no condition left. And they're stuck in a river. So I'm kind of panicking at the moment, thinking all that hard work that they've done and they're about to get decimated. And all I want to do is just run away with them. So I'm trying to get some infantry support over to them. The battle's basically over now. There's not really anything to do anymore. The only mission at the moment is Operation Save Cavalry. So I'm just charging the infantry in that direction. And then we notice there's another infantry unit over here. And not just one, but 3. So the battle isn't quite over just yet, but we've got the numbers. They're on low morale because they keep getting routed. And he's now in the position I was in, stuck in a river, heavily outnumbered. I'm just setting up on this river line. I didn't need to get that close. The best place to set up on a river line is so your maximum range is just touching the river. So you fire as they're in the river, rather than when you're dead close to the river, you'll fire when they're in the open. But the battle's won. It's just a case of speeding the time up and waiting for the timer to run down. I do start to second guess and panic a little bit about the objective, thinking, am I actually going to win this battle or do I need to take Telegraph Road? So you'll see me checking them in. Just check the objectives, just to make sure that I am actually going to win the battle. It'd be horrible to put in all this hard work only to get a loss or a draw. I think I'm thinking about it right now. There we go. Go on, I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna click on it. So I save game, worried about it, to give myself, if I was going to load it up, it'd give myself just enough time to run over to Telegraph Road. So I realise I set up way too close to the river, so I'm just retreating hopefully trying to catch him in the river. Now I'm checking the objectives, still panicking. I realise there's a green tick and think we should be good. I've made a save just in case, and I've got a green tick, so I'm safe. So it's just a case of running the last 20 minutes down, claiming the victory. I could have advanced if I want, just to do a little bit more damage, but it didn't seem like it'd be worth the losses. We've done a supreme job pretty much all over the field. I'm just checking the kill death ratios now, and I noticed this one's done terrible, but other than him, everybody else has got a really decent KD. And then I click on that guy and I go, holy shit, 2,500 kills, that's amazing. And it's over. So, yeah. What's that? 9,300, 10,800, 11,000 casualties for me versus 46, 49, 46, 70, just over 70,000. So 11,000 versus 70,000, so better than a 6-to-1 ratio, which for a battle that chaotic is incredibly good. And then we see Howitzers did a superb job, but they did take a couple of losses, so we did lose 2 Howitzers, which is a shame, but to use Howitzers properly, you've got to put them in danger. So you are always going to be at risk of losing a couple if you're going to put them in a position where they're going to get decent kills. So yeah, I'm more than happy with how that went. The CS Richmond did 2,800 kills, but after looking back at the video, I realised that was mainly from day 1 with the bridge crossing on that little side battle type thing. So it wasn't from the main battle. So have a look to see the deceased, and we didn't lose anybody of importance. Sorry to say for the ones who are not so important. And we got 7,800 Harper's Ferries. We even got a 20-pounder parrot and 26 10-pounder parrots. So we got some decent cannons and 7,800 Harper's Ferries. So we got a great haul. And then let's have a look, see how much supplies we've got. What's that? 11863 10 8 13, so 14 4 16 8 18 19 2 23 24 27 33 35 over 38,000 cash we captured in supplies. So 38,000 cash, 7,800 Harper's Ferries, 26 10-pounder parrots and a 20-pounder parrot. So that was pretty damn fantastic. I'm more than happy with how that went, even with that bit of an awkward second day. So yeah, even with 11,000 losses, we got 7,800 back and an additional 1,000. So yeah, we only actually lost 2,000 men during that. So I'm more than happy with how that went. Okay. So we got Everettsville is the only side battle, and then we're on to Stones River. So we'll call it a day. Thanks for watching, take care, and I shall see you soon.